What's the next line, Goose? Close. So no one told you life was. I don't think I can do any more of that without getting copyrighted or without you just leaving because it's so terrible you can't bear it anymore. But okay, so today we're going to talk about how to make friends, how to maintain friendships as adults, and specifically as more socially anxious introverted adults. Because as a socially anxious introverted adult who has somehow successfully made friends in adulthood, this is a topic that I get asked about frequently. And by frequently, I mean occasionally. And by occasionally, I mean one time somebody asked me for advice on it on Instagram, and now here I am taking it too far. I want to be clear that I would never wear jeans to lay on the couch. I couldn't be bothered to change for this little intro bit, so just didn't want to lie to you. Okay, so friendship is a very broad topic. So here's what we're going to be covering today. How to make friends, how to merge yourself into a pre-existing friend group, and how to maintain friendships. And I will just say, I am not a friendship expert. I am not a therapist. This is literally all just coming from my own life experiences, specifically moving to Chicago after I graduated from college and not knowing anybody here. Well, that's a lie. I did know someone here. I knew my sister, but she's 7 years older than me, so her friends did not become my friends. So I started with a completely blank slate, and I'm not gonna lie, it was very rough at times. I did cry a lot. And now 8 years later, I have managed to form a core group of friends from absolutely nothing. And I do still cry a lot, but for different reasons. So here are my tips for finding new friends so that you too can cry for different reasons. My first tip is to treat it like a job. And this is not a new or original concept. A lot of people say this, and I agree with it, because making new friends in the real world, aka not in the confines of school, is not easy. Sometimes it's not going to be fun. Sometimes it is going to be fun, but regardless, if you keep working at it, it will eventually pay off. However, I would like to slightly amend this concept and instead label it, treat it like a job that is literally going to kill you if you get fired or quit. It's dramatic, but effective. And here's why. Because it is not enough for me personally to just view making friends as a job, to view it as something that I need to be intentional about and put effort into. I need some real fear. I need a fire lit under my butt. I need to have my fight mode activated over my flight mode, because my flight mode is what keeps me in the safe confines of my home, away from talking to any people ever. So if I let my flight mode win, I am gonna be eternally lonely. If I can get my fight mode activated, that's gonna get me out there. That's gonna give me the energy to shove my anxiety out of the way and pull my true personality out from underneath all the layers of self-doubt. Because the alternative is eternal loneliness, eternal misery. And my fear of that trumps my fear of being misunderstood or accidentally offending somebody or people not liking me or not laughing at my jokes. You're laughing at my jokes, right? And so when I have to make new friends, I approach it with I have to give this every ounce of energy I have or else I'm going to die mindset. Again, dramatic, but effective. I do recognize that this is a mindset shift that might not work for everyone. That's okay. If you don't receive it, throw it away. I know you have a trash can, but again, from my experience, that was a mindset shift that worked for me. And I'll provide an example because we love proof. The proof is in the pudding, and the pudding is at the store. Because I haven't eaten pudding since I was like 8. So example, when I studied abroad in college, I knew that when I walked into my living quarters that there was no room for me to be awkward, there was no room for self-doubt or for me to mask my true self. I had one chance to make friends for this 5-month long period. And if I didn't, I would be downright miserable. So I walked into that little 6-person flat because I was in London where apartments are 2-dimensional. And I picked up my anxiety because in my head, my anxiety is like a little troll doll that I can pick up by its little pointy, spiky hair. I picked up my anxiety, I threw it against the wall and I said, shut the fuck up, I don't have time for you right now. And then I metaphorically reached deep down into myself, pulled out my true personality, and I was like, these people are gonna like me. There's no other option. Otherwise, I'm gonna die. I wasn't actually gonna die, but I was activating my fight mode, if that wasn't clear. And you know what? Those turned out to be some of the fastest and easiest friendships I've ever made. So again, treat it like a job. You're gonna have to put work in. You're gonna have to be intentional and put in the effort. And then tell yourself whatever you need to tell yourself to activate your fight mode so that you will actually go out into the trenches of making friends instead of staying home underneath the covers. If you are looking to meet new people that you can be friends with, consistently go to the same cafe on the same day each week. Take a weekly class. Volunteer on a regular basis. Find something you can keep going back to. Because I think a problem that a lot of people have is that they go to something once and they're like, I didn't make any friends and that was uncomfy, so I'm not gonna go again. Of course it was uncomfy. It's your first time doing it. Of course you didn't make any new friends. It was your first day. How many friends did you make on the first day of school? If you said 7, leave. This video isn't for you. But just find something that you can recurringly do and start to feel comfortable in, because once you start to feel comfortable in the place doing the thing, you'll feel more comfortable talking to other people, and you'll also meet the other people who are recurringly coming to the thing. Then you start talking to them, then you start to learn about their life, then you guys make plans to go do something else together, and then before you know it, you're hearing about their uterine cyst surgery and how their annoying coworker Jan is maybe getting a divorce. Okay, so it's a journey, you just need to see the vision at the end. Next tip, do an activity. If you are going on a new friend date, suggest something to do. A pottery painting class, a yoga class, some sort of art class, and any sort of class really, or a sport if that's more your thing. I don't get that, but other people do. It just makes awkward silences way less awkward because you can blame it on being focused on whatever you're doing. And then also it gives you something to bond over versus like when you just get drinks with somebody, like yes, you can chat and learn about them, but you're basically just rehashing old memories. Whereas doing an activity together, you're making new memories together. And I'm not saying you shouldn't sit down and get to know somebody and learn about their past too, but I just think leading with an activity is a good way to break the ice. And then, you can learn about the past later. We got plenty of time for the past. You learn about the past last, or like in the middle, but that doesn't rhyme, so. You learn about the past last. Give me one moment, I need to microwave some stuff. Take advantage of modern technology, and by that I mean smartphone applications. Download Bumble BFF. Go on some friend dates. Some of them are gonna be weird, but some of them are gonna be really great. It's just like regular dating. And yeah, it might seem kind of strange and forced, but it is. But the nice thing about Bumble BFF is that you are being connected to other people who are literally looking to do just that. Who are both looking to embark on the weird, forced, strange journey that is making friends as an adult. And you can initially meet each other without ever having to leave your couch. So as an introvert, I really loved that. Do things with friends first. And I know you're thinking, Morgan, I don't have friends. How am I supposed to do things with friends if I don't have them? That's why I'm here. Okay, hear me out. If you have moved to a new city or a new town and you are afraid to go out and do things on your own, see if you can plan a trip to have some old friends come visit, have a sibling come visit, parents, cousin. Bless you, Morgan. Thank you, Morgan. And go do some of the things that you are uncomfortable doing alone with them. And then hopefully when they leave, you'll feel more comfortable going to do those things by yourself. And then ideally, it's something that you can also do consistently. And then perhaps you'll meet some other people who also do those things consistently. Remember when I mentioned consistency earlier? We're connecting things. bread's a little toastier than I would have liked it. It's also gonna completely fall apart when I eat it, so that's gonna be really nice to have documented. Anyways, so next tip is to have deep conversations right away. Almost. Don't be like, hi, I'm Morgan, what's your greatest regret in life? But like, you know, within the first few times of hanging out. Because like, yes, you can form bonds over your favorite reality TV shows, over sports, over whatever small talk that you're into, but you're gonna start to feel those deeper relationships when you have deeper conversations. Literally the two closest friend groups that I've ever had, my high school friend group and my current friend group, two completely different sets of people. Both of those friend groups started talking about deep things very early on. Both of us literally in the cover of night, because I suppose darkness is better for vulnerability, we would sit down in a circle or like an oblong rectangle, and everyone would just come up with deep questions to ask, like, what's your favorite thing about yourself? What's your least favorite thing about yourself? What is the happiest moment in your life? What is your greatest regret? And we would just all go around and answer. 99% of the time, it led to really interesting conversation and bonding, and 1% of the time, it led to conflict. But in my experience, the conflict and disagreement has always been resolved and actually led to stronger friendships because you are learning to communicate with each other. So yeah, ask the deep questions. If people think it's weird, then I think they're weird. And you should think they're weird. Obviously, if it's something they don't want to talk about because it's like too personal, they're not ready to share that yet, don't pressure them. Okay, that's fine. They don't need to do that. You get what I'm saying. I know you get it. I need to hang these up for fall, so I gotta put the command strips on the back. So if you're like, Morgan, what are you pressing on down here that's out of frame? It's this. I'm not like doing CPR. It'd be really weird if that was part of my chores for today. I could be learning CPR. I could be practicing. That could be the thing that I have to do. It's not though. I could not save you if you needed CPR is an unintended lesson of this video. So next tip is to kick them in the butt metaphorically. Legally, I need you to know that this recommendation is metaphorical. I have this friend from high school, we'll call her Jasmine, and Jasmine met her high school boyfriend, now husband, by kicking him in the butt. This is literal, not metaphorical. She very briefly met this kid through one of her close friends who was on the soccer team with this newer gentleman. And she saw him walking in the hallway. She was behind him. And I assume that she was carrying books or something was occupying her hands, and all that was free was her feet. If not, I'm not sure why she did this. But to get his attention, she kicked him in the butt, which for most people would have been quite off-putting. But that sort of greeting is exactly who Jasmine is. She wasted no time hiding herself. She's like, I'm just going all in, and he's either gonna like me or he's not. And that's really how I think friendships are best approached in adulthood or really any time. This concept really helps my social anxiety because any new potential friend is just a stranger. So if I'm completely myself and they don't like me, there's really no consequence other than we just don't become friends. It's kind of just like a you have nothing to lose sort of mindset, which I've always found very helpful. And then if that person ends up liking what you're bringing to the table, amazing. And if they don't, then you're not wasting time getting to know somebody who doesn't really like who you are. Now, when I've done that and people have not liked me, have I proceeded to think about it for days, weeks, months on end and try to figure out what exactly it is that they don't like? Yeah, okay, but that's not healthy. Don't do that. Don't do that. Just be like, it wasn't meant to be. Just roll off your shoulder. That's the saying. Just let it roll off of your body. Okay, and final point on making new friends. Remember that all it takes is one. I think people often view finding a new friend or a partner as like searching for a needle in a haystack. Like, oh my God, I have to weed through all these freaking people just to find one. But for a moment, let's switch that thinking. Instead of, oh, okay, I have to weed through all these people, it's, I have so many options to choose from and I just need one. And that one can come about literally anywhere at any time. At one point, I was just a single 23-year-old who had newly moved to Chicago, who had no friends and was feeling pretty bad about herself, questioning a lot of her life choices. She was working at a financial services firm, and for all she knew, she was the only 23-year-old woman working at that firm until she went to the company summer party and she met the other 23-year-old woman working at the firm. They became immediate friends. And that one girl, that one friend that I met, who's still one of my closest friends today, I met a bunch of other people through her. I made other friends through her. I found other activities to do through her. And literally just from meeting that one random person, my whole social circle and life changed. So all it takes is one, and just know that it can happen at any point, when you're least expecting it, when you're most expecting it, when you're kind of expecting it. It can happen anytime, it just takes one person. You get it. Okay, so now you've made friends, or you already had friends and you just want to keep them. So claps either way. Now let's talk about maintaining friendships. We're gonna do this in 3 parts: maintaining long distance friendships, short distance friendships, I guess is what the opposite of that is, and friendships with people who are in a different stage of life. So with long distance friendships, technology is going to be our best friend. Well, our best friend is still going to be our best friend, but the technology is the friend that brings us together. Schedule a weekly or monthly or a bi-monthly FaceTime with your friend and plan to do something while you're on the call. Like, it can literally just be you're making dinner, or like maybe you're working on your knitting or a craft or a puzzle or something. But that just helps make it feel like your friend is actually there talking to you while life is happening. And it also just gives you something to keep you occupied, because if you're like me, I don't really like talking on the phone or FaceTiming because I'm just an awkward human being. But if I have something that I'm doing whilst FaceTiming, I feel a lot better. It gives me a reason to maybe not necessarily respond right away or be like, huh, what'd you say? Sorry, I was busy cooking. Also, write things down that you want to tell them. Because if you're like me, when somebody asks me like, hey, what's new? What have you been up to? I'm like, I suddenly have no idea what I've done in my life ever. My mind just goes completely blank. So keeping little notes of when funny stories happen, or just when you have things you want to share, that can be really helpful for just having conversation starters. Another tip I like is to try and listen to the same podcast or read the same book or watch the same show as your long distance friends, because again, it gives you something to talk about. It also just kind of feels like you're doing something together. Next tip is to remember the milestones. And this kind of goes for any friendship, but I feel like for long distance friendships, it's especially important. And I'm a literal hypocrite in saying that because I've been really bad about it lately. Sorry, long distance friends. But like when your long distance friends have birthdays, when they get a new job, buy a new house, anything big, try and send them a handwritten note. Like, I mean, not like a letter. I mean, it could be a letter, but like a card with like a proper note written in it, not just a congratulations or happy birthday. Like take some of this and put it in there. Take some of this and put it in there. That was your heart, to be clear, not your sternum. They don't need your sternum in the card. Those little thoughtful gestures, I think, just go a long way for long distance friendships and are so much more meaningful than just a text. And then last tip for long distance is kind of an obvious one, but it's try to plan a visit. I know this is often easier said than done because there's busy schedules and kids and spouses and all of these things happening, but try to make the girls' trip happen. Try to at least express that you want it to happen. Just let your friend or friends know that you want to try to see them, and when the time is right, have them let you know. I think just making it known that you want to see them is actually a lot more meaningful than you think it is. I just noticed how much stuff is just laying on the ground in the background. Give me a minute. I'm gonna shove it somewhere else. Isn't that nicer? Do you like me more now as a person, now that that's fake clean? Let's be honest. It's all gonna kind of go right back there after this is over. But now, short distance friendships. And I'm gonna do this while I look for a Halloween costume for Goose. So if you're like, Morgan, why are you looking at your iPad? It's because I'm looking at dogs and dinosaur costumes. But so for short distance friendships, I think the first thing that you need to let sink in is that they're not going to be the same as the short distance friendships you had in school. And you need to accept that just because you don't see each other every day, just because you don't text every day, it doesn't mean that you're not friends. That's just a very normal occurrence in adult life. You could be a pickle or taco, that's classic. A Target employee, oddly specific. You also need to get comfortable with initiating if you are going to maintain a short distance friendship. I'm just going to call it a regular friendship. A friendship. If you're gonna maintain a friendship, you gotta get comfortable with initiating. Personally, I'm really bad at this because my whole life I've had a deeply rooted fear of being rejected and of caring more about other people than they care about me. But what I try to remind myself is that a lot of people have those deeply rooted fears. And as a result, a lot of people wait for friendships to come to them. And I think that leads to a lot of people who could be very close friends just sitting at home alone because they're too afraid to reach out and initiate. So that's a fear you do need to work on getting over if you seriously do want to maintain your friendships. If they're busy, it's nothing personal against you. You're not a stupid idiot human being for not knowing their schedule and asking them to hang out when they're busy. If they actually want to hang out with you, one, they're going to be flattered that you initiated it. And two, they're gonna find a day that works for both of you. If they ultimately don't reciprocate, then, that's fine. That's not the friendship for you. But at least you reached out. Scooby-Doo. That would just be my dog being another dog. Is that weird? I mean, humans are just other humans a lot of the time for Halloween. He could be a bumblebee. I like the idea of a bumblebee. Goose, how do you feel about being a bumblebee? Thank you for sharing your input. Next, you're also gonna need to be consistent. You wanna consistently see each other because otherwise, if you go too far and few between, too far and few between. I said that saying wrong once and people made fun of me, and now I'm very self-conscious for still not knowing what the right way is. If you wait too long to see each other, then you kind of just become catch-up friends, where all you're doing is getting dinner and catching up on your separate lives. And if you're okay with that type of friendship, that's fine, go off. But if you want something deeper, you need to see each other more consistently. You need to have lives together, not just separate lives that you talk about together. And an easy way to keep up with consistency is to keep it casual. It does not have to be a big to-do every time you hang out. Just do casual shit together. Go to the grocery store, go to the gym, walk your dog, get coffee, go to a bookstore. Do the stuff you normally would or have to do and just do it with your pal. He can be an octopus. Goose would be so upset with me if I put him in this. If you feel like you're struggling to initiate plans, especially because of your social anxiety or your introvertness, think about how you'll feel after the plans are done. Try not to think about how you'll feel during the interaction because that's probably gonna activate your flight mode and you're just gonna wanna stay home. Think about how you're gonna feel after. Because most of the time when I am forced into a social situation and I'm like, oh, I don't really feel like going, and then I end up going, I usually feel great afterwards. I feel very accomplished and relieved, and I have this endorphin high. So just try to use that anticipated feeling of accomplishment or relief as a motivator to just get yourself to go to the thing instead of canceling or getting yourself to send the text to plan the thing. And then also schedule introvert time after your social days or social hours. If you spend a whole morning hanging out with a friend, getting to know a new friend, make sure that afterwards you have time to come home and read a book and recharge. Don't come home and do laundry unless you genuinely love doing laundry, in which case I'd love to know more about your brain. But come home and do something that really recharges you because it's something to look forward to, and then like I said, it literally recharges you, which is what you need after the socialization. I will also say, honor your commitments, but also give grace. Busy schedules is probably one of the most common challenges when it comes to maintaining friendships, and so people do have to cancel and reschedule, and that can often, make it hard to actually hang out and can also make people feel like they're not a priority. And so if you're very serious about maintaining a friendship, do your best to honor your commitments. And if you make plans with somebody, try to not cancel or reschedule unless it really, really is necessary. Because if you keep canceling and rescheduling regularly, then you're sending a message to that person that they are not very high on your priority list. And likewise, if another person is doing that to you, again, sometimes it is just life gets in the way, and that's why I say give grace and be patient with your friends if they do need to reschedule. But if it is something that is recurring and you think it's a problem and you're feeling hurt by it, then maybe it's time to have a conversation where you're like, hey, I just want to let you know that this is how this is making me feel. Or maybe it's really on both ends, like you both just can't seem to prioritize the friendship. And maybe that means you need a little break. Doesn't mean you hate each other or you have to have this big intense friendship breakup. It just means things are really busy right now, and maybe when things settle down, there'll be time to reconnect and have a stronger friendship. And then finally, create traditions. I think this is really important for maintaining friend groups because obviously it's really hard to coordinate a bunch of people's schedules, but if you guys can get something that you do together on a weekly or monthly basis, monthly is probably more realistic, but like start a book club, do a monthly movie night, do a monthly dinner party, rotate who hosts it. Just pick that day so that everyone knows it and has it in their head. And of course you can move it if you need to, but at least people can plan to schedule around that. And that just gives you all an opportunity to get together on a regular basis and catch up without having to randomly schedule things, you know, every other month, try to coordinate, like you just have it on the calendar. We love having things on the calendar. Now let's talk about maintaining friendships when you are in different stages of life. So I'm 29. I have friends who are married with 2 children. I have friends who are engaged. I have friends who are dating. I have friends who are single. I have friends who own homes. I have friends who live with their parents. I have friends who are very successful professionally. I have friends who are unemployed. This shit is all over the place. Pretty much the only thing that all these friends have in common is that they are all confused about how to maintain friendships with people who are in different life stages. So just know that pretty much everyone between the ages of like 20 and 40 is struggling with this. And these are just the tips that I have found to help me. First is to have the most perfect dog in the whole world. That's actually not an official tip, but it does help. But yeah, so first tip, do not compare your life stages. Nobody's stage is better or worse than anybody else's, even though it may seem like it on the surface. You don't know what's going on underneath. So don't compare and think that you are better or worse off than anyone else. Also, try to find commonalities that have nothing to do with the life stage that you're in. So like I mentioned earlier, try to listen to the same podcast, try to watch, oh, that is a thread. Try to watch the same TV shows, try to play the same sport, try to do something that is the same, that has nothing to do with whether or not you have a kid or not, or have a job or not, or are married or not. I think the most important thing is to be patient, because when things change, when people get married, when they have a kid, when they get divorced, when they get a job, when they lose a job, their schedules and their minds become very busy. And as a result, it is harder to make time for friendships, but that doesn't mean that the friendship is over. Continue to offer to support in the ways that you know how to, and just be very open and honest with each other and let each other know what you need from each other. Be like, hey, I really want to talk about work. I just need you to commiserate with me for 20 or 30 minutes. And then maybe we can talk about whatever, you know, you need to vent about or whatever's going on in your life. I think it's up to both parties to be really cognizant of not letting their own personal interests or lives dominate the conversation, because again, no one person's life stage is more important than the other. And also remember that life stages are just that, they are stages, which means eventually they will change again. Your friend who's super busy with their new powerful job may lose that job. Your friend who had a child, that child's gonna grow up, they're not gonna need their parent 24/7. And likewise, that parent is gonna start to feel more comfortable not always being around the kid. They'll be comfortable letting a babysitter babysit and going on a trip. That kid will be in school for most of the day. They'll have more time to do things. Things will change. Your friendship will ebb and flow. And just because it seems off or different in the moment doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to be that way forever. A few things that I hear a lot when it comes to making new friends is that everybody already has their friend group. They're not looking for any new friends. It's so hard to infiltrate a friend group that's already established. And so that first statement, everybody already has their friend group, is just not true, because if it was, I wouldn't be making this video. The second statement, that people with friend groups aren't looking for any new friends, is mildly true. And then the statement that it's really hard to break into an already established friend group is is very true. It's very difficult and intimidating. But as somebody who has merged herself into pre-existing friend groups not once but twice in her life, here are my tips for doing so. 1, do not assume that friend groups are not looking for new friends. They probably aren't actively looking because, as I said before, it's hard to make friends. So if you already have them, why would you continue to put yourself through that? But if a new friend comes to you, if they're presented like a gift, people will probably be open to it because people love gifts. So if there is a group of friends that you would like to get to know more, don't assume that they are not open to having you be a part of it. You just have to know that the work is going to be on your end. And that brings me to my next tip, which is that you're going to have to be prepared to kiss a little ass in a very genuine way. Because as I said before, most friend groups are not actively looking for new friends. So you've got to find a way to make yourself stand out. You're going to have to be the one to reach out. You're going to have to make it known that you want to be included and you want to be there. You know, bring a baked good to events when you're invited. If you're getting up to get a drink or a cup of water, offer to see if anybody else in the group needs one. If there's a birthday celebration, make sure to bring a gift, even if you don't know the person that well. All of these are very basic, just nice person things, but when you do them for a group of friends that you don't know very well, it really goes a long way. And it shows how interested you are in not just getting to know these people, but genuinely caring about them. And then trust your gut. If the vibes are off, if you are feeling unwelcomed, move on. This is something you will probably be able to identify pretty early on because I've never met a friend group that started as unwelcoming and suddenly became welcoming. So if your spidey sense is going off in a bad way, not like a cool superhero way, then, you know, it's probably not the friend group for you. And then my last tip on this topic is to be okay with being the Phoebe or the Joey. To understand this analogy, you will need to be familiar with the dynamic of the friends in the hit 1990s show Friends. So you have Monica and Rachel, who have been friends since high school. And then you have Ross, who's Monica's brother, who's also been friends with Chandler since high school. Those are the core 4. Then you have Phoebe, who was picked up by Monica along the way sometime in adulthood, as well as Joey, who was picked up by Chandler at some point. And while Phoebe and Joey are very crucial parts of the friend group and arguably the funniest, they are the outsiders. They have the least amount of history with the group, but that doesn't stop them from bringing their own perspectives and their own memories into the group. If you are going to join a pre-existing friend group, you kind of have to accept this role because there will be times where the group shares memories and laughs about things that you weren't there for, and they're not doing it to make you feel bad or to make you feel left out. It's just a natural thing that happens with friends. So you can't let that get you down. So chime in, ask to hear the whole story, ask to learn more, offer up your own similar story to try and relate. It can be a little bit scary and feel a little bit awkward to do, but if you're willing to do that, it can lead to some really amazing friendships. You know, sometimes Monica and Rachel, they're gonna hang out without you. Doesn't mean they don't like you, doesn't mean they're trying to leave you out. It's just that they've been friends for a really long time. And so they're probably going to do things together one-on-one still. That doesn't mean that you can't make plans to hang out with Rachel one-on-one or Monica. Still have every right to form your new memories with them one-on-one too. But you will probably be the one who has to take the initiative to set up those opportunities for yourself. And like I said, that can be scary. A lot of people will probably not put themselves in that position because it is very intimidating. But if you choose to do it, it can be very rewarding. And the one thing that you kind of do have going for you as the newcomer to the group is that there's a lot of conversation starters because people don't know that much about you and you don't know that much about them. So as an introvert, that's something that I've kind of liked about being introduced to new friend groups. You kind of have all of these new people to bounce around to and ask questions, and likewise they can ask you questions. And it just sometimes feels less intimidating than doing a one-on-one, because if you're not feeling the vibe quite as much with one person, you can always move on to somebody else. So I know it's intimidating to try to become a part of an already established friend group, but like I said, it can be very rewarding. All right. That is the end of today's lesson. Like I said, it was a very broad topic. We definitely did not talk about everything there is to talk about when it comes to making friends. And I know that not all of the strategies I mentioned are going to work for everyone. But I hope at the very least that this conversation gives you the courage and motivation to keep trying. Because friendships, making them, maintaining them, it is hard. It does take energy. It is emotionally draining at times. But at the end of the day, it really is worth it. And I know when you're going through a very lonely period, it can feel like it's never going to end. I have definitely gone through those periods. I have sobbed through those periods. And honestly, what helped me the most during those times was therapy, which I know can be relatively inaccessible to a lot of people. But if that is something that you are able to get access to, I would so highly recommend it because it can really help reshape your mindset and keep you motivated. Hello, Goose. Is there anything you would like to add to the end of this video? Did you say you want to be a bumblebee for Halloween? Okay, great. I'll let Dad know. So yeah, if you have tips of your own for making friends, please definitely leave them in the comments. Like I said, I know I didn't mention everything, so I would love to hear other people's thoughts as well. And yeah, really the main lesson that I just want you to take from this video is to keep trying. You are not alone. There are so many other people out there who are struggling with this. So just keep putting yourself out there, keep being open and vulnerable and honest. And the friendships you need are out there and you will find them, I promise you. So give this video a thumbs up if you liked it and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. And by like this, I mean a 29-year-old just kind of talking about her life and trying to put a smile on people's faces. I guess I never really thought about what my brand is. But yeah, just stick around if you feel like a lost adult because I'm also a lost adult. So we'll probably get along and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.